Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing a Why the Pros Play on Diablo. And I'm going to try this out using the webcam in the beginning, see if you guys prefer this as opposed to the regular way of doing this. So, Diablo is one of the strongest tanks in the meta right now. We've seen in the latest tournament, he's got a popularity of 80, the latest few tournaments actually, he's got a popularity of 87% with a 54% win rate. These are incredibly high numbers for pro play. So why is Diablo being played so much? Well, to explain a little bit about that, let's first get into his builds and we'll really get down to the gritty pieces of this anyways. So level 1, he has all three of his builds are very viable. One of the strongest talents that he has is called Feast on Fear. It makes it to where he heals by 12% of his health over 3 seconds whenever he gets any sort of stun. That's either a Q slam against the wall or a flip. And it's just a really powerful method of healing a lot, but it does have a little bit of an overlap. So if you stun him against the wall and then immediately flip, you might lose 2 seconds of that healing. But even with that overlap, it's still an extremely powerful talent, gives you a lot of sustain during fights when you're nowhere near any minions. The next one is the Devil's Due. Devil's Due is a powerful talent, but it only really gains power if you're next to globes, if you're next to minions that are going to be dying, or if there's globes that are going to be spawning on specific maps. So if you're on a map like Battlefield of Eternity, for example, you might not see a globe for a little while during the actual objective fight, meaning that it's best to probably not get Devil's Due because you won't be seeing that. Now, it does also help out with the healing fountain, so you can fight for a while, go grab a healing fountain, and come back and then be in a good spot. Level 4 and 7 are pretty much consistent, and honestly, level 4, 7, 13, and 16 are all pretty much consistent in what you're supposed to get. It's W build is the most consistent build in general, and the reason why is because it doesn't require anything major. If you do land a Q which stuns people and then you can flip them, it's likely going to lead to a kill whether or not you're going Q build, because in pro play everyone is so coordinated they can make any engagement work. So if you engage on someone who's out of position and you flip them, you don't need any extra damage. Your team blows them up with just your CC alone. So the W build allows you to heal a lot. It allows you to deal a lot of poke damage and get your souls very easily without like needing to commit to any specific fight. You don't need to auto attack heroes, and you don't need to slam any heroes against any walls. You pretty much just keep Wing their front line and keep gaining as many stacks as you possibly can, as many souls as you possibly can. Level 7, again, adds the W build, makes it to where you can fire off Ws, get your souls and your heals at level 4. Level 7 allows it to where you can reset your W. One of the things that I tell a lot of people when I'm coaching them is you can W, slam someone against a wall, W, flip them, W, and get 3 different Ws off right at the beginning of any fight. That it allows you to pretty much out-heal any damage that you were going to take during that fight, as well as it deals a lot of poke damage to a variety of people on their team. Level 10, it's always Lightning Breath right now. It used to always be APOC. Lightning Breath is just so powerful that you just kind of have to deal with its strength right now. Now, it has been nerfed in terms of cooldown from the time that some of these games were played, but in general, it's still the most powerful ultimate because it just makes it to where you can deal a lot of damage as a tank, and with the extra spell power you get from 13, that damage really adds up very quickly. Level 13, again, spell power. It synergizes with your Lightning Breath, but it also synergizes with your healing as well as your extra damage. Level 16, Debilitating Flames, makes it to where enemies that are hit by your W are slowed, and if they're slowed by a certain amount, they also reduce their damage. So it's a powerful tool, and it's surprising because a lot of people don't understand when they've actually had their damage reduced in chaotic fights. So just getting hit by a couple Ws, people don't realize, they're like, oh, well, my damage is reduced by 50%. They didn't even realize when it happened. Level 20, a lot of people are either going Hellgate or they're going Hellstorm. Hellstorm seems like the most consistent option as it allows you to really keep your Lightning Breath going for a long time. Lightning Breath is something that sometimes you'll pop a little bit early in a team fight just to avoid a CC, and now you can leave it on for the entirety of a team fight and zone people out for a long time. Not just that, but it's pretty good for sieging because you can just toss out a couple Ws and then safely siege with the Lightning Breath from really far away. Hellgate's picked up here and there. It allows you to have an escape. You can jump in, flip someone, and then immediately jump out and have your team kill them while you're still safe. Hellgate also gives a stun opportunity in case you want to toss down a stun, flip someone, get them stunned, reposition, and smash them against a wall. Just kind of gives you, it's a I guess a Swiss Army knife in terms of an ability. These are the builds. Now let's get into the game. The game that we are going to be going into is a game with the I believe it's Leftovers versus what is it, Fnatic? I believe it's Fnatic. Let me see. Yes, Leftovers versus Fnatic. Level 1, the talent that Diablo picks up is Feast on Fear. I mentioned this on the map earlier, that Devil's Due only really works if you know you're going to be near minions when objectives are fighting, or when you're fighting over an objective. You're not very close to minions at any of these objective points, which makes it to where it's much more risky to take Devil's Due than Feast on Fear. Feast on Fear just generally is a good talent. Soul Shield is a decent talent that gets really good if you're against a double mage composition team. Which is pretty rare in pro play, but it still is something that does pop up here and there. First thing is level 1, they're just playing safe. They're not really worrying too much about anything else. He is going to reposition just so he's in a spot where he can get some more abilities off. He uses a W to reveal, and then he heads up top lane. He gets seen by the owl, so he decides it's not worth going top lane anymore. Getting hit by anything with a Diablo before he has his souls is very, very risky, as he has a very small health pool. So he uses the Q to hit a minion so he can get out from this position. I'm going to fast forward through the area where he is getting back to lane. We're going to keep fast forwarding. He's immediately going to invade, see if he can get a kill up here as the Greymane and the Blaze get the top camp. He's just waiting to see if Thrall pushes out. Thrall's playing a little safe, so I don't think he's going to actually stay here any longer. He might actually just be staying here to anchor for his team as they take some structures top. But he decides to go the safe route to get out. Breeze almost takes him out. And again, you got to play really safe with Diablo until you get your souls. Now, once you hit level 4, it's a lot easier to get your souls. So, and once again, he uses his Q to get out of the lane. So whenever he gets thrown by Garrosh, he's pretty much always making sure that he has some form of an escape, usually by using Q on minions. We see the first camp being picked up by Leftovers. They pick it up with 30 seconds until the objective spawns, and they also pressure top lane to see if this camp can get any sort of value. He's, again, hanging out in the anchor area. He needs to be a little cautious about pushing too far out, because if he gets flipped over, they didn't have any walls or anything. We do see the talent picked up, Souls to the Flame, allows him to get his souls a little bit easier. Oh, that was a pretty good stun by the Garrosh. He threw someone into he threw Diablo into the extra stun. And then he stepped back and did another stun. Garrosh is pretty strong in this map, so he can get pretty brutal. Do see a fountain picked up, and the Hanzo's racing pretty fast, so we might see the Diablo try to push into the, and immediately blown up. Again, before you have the souls for Diablo, he's actually surprisingly squishy. The enemy team does pick up the Immortal, so again, he just has to play safe at the moment. And he's just backing up right before the stuns, making sure that he's in a pretty good spot. We see that the Eternal Flames is picked up. I always like to joke around at people and say this is when Diablo's a real hero. The reason that I say that is just because the amount of W's you can get off in a fight is just crazy. Now, we didn't see him do anything too crazy right there, but it's really easy to get your souls back when you're firing off 3 sets of W's every team fight. fast forwarding through a lot of extra little things. Something that I always like to share with Diablo is the better rank you get, the less people are going to just stand in front of walls for you. So you need to change your positioning to where if the enemy wants to step forward, they have to go in front of a wall. And it changes it up where it's less about the enemies making a mistake and more you forcing the enemies into 2 wrong decisions. And that's why a lot of times you'll see that his positioning seems really weird. Sometimes he's positioning just as an anchor for his team, but other times you see that he's like standing off in kind of a weird spot. If you don't understand where he's standing or why he's standing, it's because he's standing in a way that's going to cause the enemies to be forced. For example, right here, if he positions right here and the enemy tries to come through here, he can immediately stun them. So that means that they can just never walk through this direction, or else they're going to immediately be stunned. It's kind of the same idea where you can position in weird ways and kind of anchor a zone without even being in that zone. There's also a debate over how much you should commit to the return of your W. For example, should you W behind you and then charge in and flip someone so that they get hit by all of the returning flames? Because the return does 3 times the amount of damage. In reality, it's a cool idea on paper, but it's more about just throwing it and hitting as many people as possible rather than trying to commit all of it into one. Because even if you hit them with all the returning flames, it's only 250 damage, and when a lot of the targets have thousands of health, that's not really worth its commitment. It's much better to just toss your W in as many targets as possible and get the most consistent value out of your W. Let's fast forward as this fight's getting started. They're both trying to pressure around level 10s. Whichever team hits level 10 first will definitely be at an advantage. Red team leftovers, they don't want to lose another objective, so they're going to try to play this really safe. Diablo should be looking around for the Hanzo on defense right now, because if the Hanzo steps out of position, then Diablo can blow him up. Once again, he's just watching for trying to keep the Grey Mane alive. Hanzo ult goes out. We see the Diablo absolutely blow up. And again, until those 100 souls go out, he's pretty squishy. And their team is pretty much a blow-up comp as well, so it's very hard to deal with. Just kind of getting through a lot of this area. There's a lot of dead time. Some of these pro games, they play so safe. Alright, so level 10, he does pick up the lightning breath. We see him getting thrown in again. This time we might see some follow-up for his team to try to save him. We do see exactly what I was talking about before. So what he did was he did a W, and then he slammed someone into a wall, he did a W, and then he flipped someone, and he did a W. And now he's going to lightning breath. Despite the fact that he's very low health right now, look how much he heals. Oh, I mean, now he gets blown up, but if he would have gotten the return of his lightning breath or his W's, he probably would have lasted a lot longer. But definitely his team's they're struggling to keep him alive, and we might see a transition in how the Deckard plays to adjust to the amount of damage that he's taken. He's getting close to the 100 souls as well, so they're getting really close to where they need to be. A trick that he can kind of do is if the Garrosh starts stepping up, he can immediately lightning breath and make it to where he can't be flipped. But then the problem is that the Garrosh burned the lightning breath just for stepping up. So if he does it when the team's already there, it could definitely work out. But definitely, there's a lot of tricks you can do with lightning breath giving you unstoppable. The enemies are currently on this camp. Looks like they could really jump in. So now we're at 100 souls. That means that his health is increased by 40%. So he's a lot tankier than most of the other tanks, as well as he still gains the armor from charging in. Does it not give armor anymore? Am I crazy? I thought it gave armor. Maybe it only gives armor when you get this talent. Yeah, so he doesn't have any armor. But he can still get the armor from hopping in a bunker really quick. He also still gains the shielding from the potions. He's still playing pretty safe, though. Even with his full health that he has, he doesn't want to lose his souls now. And they want to wait until level 13 to fight. And there's really not anything to fight over. On this map, you don't usually want to take too many fights that you're not sure about outside of objectives. So the enemy's got double camp. They'll need to clear up this camp, but at the same time, they're going to need to figure out how to do it without wasting too much time. He goes, he gets a W, he slams him against the wall. He gets taunted. Now he goes for another W. He could go for the flip and then another W if he wants to, but he's just going to play it safe, grab a couple potions. I'm actually surprised he didn't go for a flip there. But that was a lot that was used on him, and you can see this tankiness that he has now, how hard he is to kill whenever he's at 100 souls. And if he does die during one of these fights, he's in a really good spot. A nice lightning breath gets people pretty low. I'm actually surprised he didn't just stay on the Garrosh and try to get the Garrosh stun. Lot of stun, but did you see the healing? Like they went and they threw a lot on him, but he was healing so much it didn't really matter. And that's what I really like about Diablo, is how much healing he actually has. They're racing pretty good. Already goes to halftime show. Not much follow-up. He was pretty far from his team. They're just playing all on defense right now. Their goal is to take out this Hanzo if they get a chance. And this is actually being a pretty rough game. I mean, the Diablo's getting focused down despite how tanky he is, as well as... And we could see all that healing. If you saw, he went down to about half health. He did 3 Ws, as well as the stuns and heals from Feast on Fear. And he was actually, like, full health again. So this is what I'm talking about, the consistency of this build, is when you do slam into someone, you likely can lead to a kill. But if you don't ever slam into someone, if the enemies are always playing perfectly, then you can do a lot of healing and stay very consistently in there. That's an interesting breath. I'm actually pretty surprised about that. Once again, he's low health, and the Feast on Fear healing is right there. And he's also already has a W out the first time, and then since he stunned him, he has another W out, and he uses his flip. So he's able to survive all the damage from them. And it looks like he probably will go down here unless he can get a lot more healing. He positions himself in a way that he can stun, and he finishes off his quest. So he's actually going the Devastating Charge at 13, which means that now he does a lot of burst damage to people. And so this loses the spell power from the Hellfire. So you lose spell power, but you gain burst damage. Even in W build, it's still okay to sneak in a Devastating Charge here and there, because you can finish off someone. In this case, they want to finish off the Hanzo. Without the Hanzo, they lose their sustained damage. They lose their race potential. And they have a high chance of winning the fight. Same without the Phoenix as well. If they get rid of Phoenix, they lose a lot of their sustained damage. So he's opting for the Devastating Charge instead. If you're wondering why there's a change from Master League stats only show games that get to level 20, which tells me that this game does not reach level 20. So there are builds that are different from the ones that are on Master League, but they usually end earlier. We do see the Domination, which is usually picked up if you're going to get Devastating Charge. The reason why this pops up is because you can charge someone into a wall, and then you can reposition yourself in the direction that they need to run away. And then when they start running away that direction, you flip them back into the wall, and then you slam them once again. So you always want that reset. The other reason why Domination is really good is because you can charge someone that's not against a wall, flip them, and then push them back into your team and get a kill. A good fight's going. He's going to immediately go for a flip. He's bringing him back into his team, and he's going to Lightning Breath. He's getting low on health, but as we've seen with Diablo lately, that health doesn't really mean that much. As long as he can survive just 1 or 2 burst hits, he can out-heal a little bit. And in this case, he did not pick up enough potions to survive that. And he is going to have a full death timer this time around. So it's going to take him a while to get back. I'm actually surprised he didn't pick up a few potions. This is a pro player, but it is kind of one of those things where you're in a game with high stakes, and a lot of times there's a lot going on in your mind. So what is called out and what actually happens can be quite different. What you're planning and what actually happens could be quite different. They're just playing the defense game. There's no camps or any pressure for either team right now, so it's just pretty much playing safe. He's going to try to get as many souls as possible. And he's going to mount up and get the minions as they die. Once again, the position here allows him to immediately slam someone against this wall. So instead of anchoring here so the enemies don't walk up this way, he can anchor here and make it to where the enemies don't walk up this way. It's a way to really anchor his zone without ever needing to take any damage. Diablo is one of the few heroes who can do something like that, purely because of his wall stuns. They're getting a little bit of race off. Diablo is still going to play pretty safe here. He wants to see if he can take out one of the Hanzo's, the main person he needs to take out. And once again, he charges, stuns, does about 30 to 40% of Hanzo's health, flips him, pushes him back into the team, and the team absolutely blows up the Hanzo. He then immediately goes into Lightning Breath to get the enemy Garrosh away. Once again, flip, stun into wall. Or sorry, stun into wall, and then flip, get a kill. And this is why Diablo works so well with this team. They realize that the enemy team has a blow-up comp, so they kind of need to do the same thing. They're not going to be able to survive in awkward fights because the enemy just needs one opportunity to blow up. So they did the exact same thing. He changed his build into one of my favorite builds. I call this the hybrid build, where you go the W talents in the beginning for the survivability and the healing, and then you go the burst talents at level, or the Q talents at level 13 and 16, so you have burst. Kind of gives you both, like the best of both worlds. Now, this isn't the most consistent build. The most consistent build, we saw that earlier, the one that constantly gets to 20, has high win rates. That's just the full W build, but this build tends to end the game a little bit earlier, and it's just a very beneficial build because you can really blow up people that are scary. And you can see how almost all of the fights that they're starting to win are purely based off his moves alone. So while he died a lot in the beginning and had a lot of weird, awkward moments because he was going against a Garrosh, now all of these fights that they're winning is purely off of his setup alone. He goes in, he stuns someone, he flips them, they die almost every single time. And it's just very easy for him to always do this. He uses his W to reveal bushes quite a lot, and it's something that a lot of the Diablos, even in the pro area, don't do enough. They save their W's just for hitting as many people as possible, but quick W's into the bush could save your team an entire death, and one death is pretty much like getting a kill every time you use a W. And there is a keep, and that is level 20. At level 20, we see that Hellgate is picked up. A lot of times what happens when you have this build too is Hellgate allows for another stun. So if you want to stun someone into a wall, you can Hellgate and deal a lot to them. He's going in here to get the extra armor as well as get the extra damage from the fire, and that is game. So all it took for him in the specific build that he decided to go was he had to get his 13 quests done, and he had to get to level 16. So he used the consistency of the amount of healing that his level 4 and 7 talents have, and he used the consistency of all the healing to try to, and his level, I guess it was 1, 4, and 7, he would be able to out-heal a lot of the damage in the fights, and sure, he got bursted quite a lot, but generally when he got into these fights, he was able to out-heal the majority of the damage the enemies did, keep up with everything, keep his team in the game, and then right as he hit his power spike, he absolutely destroyed people. Now, this is why the pros are playing Diablo, is because he has such high healing, such high damage, and he's got a ton of utility. But this is actually the build that I would recommend you try out for carrying in Hero League, because it has the best of both worlds. You have the survivability that you need with your W talents, as well as you have the damage and burst potential you need from your Q talents. So it allows you to survive through a lot of burst until the enemies make a single mistake, and you absolutely punish them because of that mistake. Hopefully this video explained a little bit of why the pros have been playing Diablo, as well as how you can utilize all of this information in Hero League to move up in rank. Thank you all for watching, and feel free to check out some of my other videos.